Hey guys, welcome to a new episode. Today we are going to be discussing or going to be explaining to you how I set up the folder structure, the pages structure here. And because last time I was struggling a bit with the idea of implementing the authentication system, and today now I will present you what I have done so far, and lot of the stuff that I did for authentication system I haven't filmed, but I can explain you here what I did in this video. We will do less coding, I think, and more explaining. The reason why I didn't basically filmed what I did or how I coded it was because I read it through a lot of documentation, and it took me a bit of amount of time to figure out what's the best way for us to implement authentication, and that was the reason. I could also do it in a separate project and then film it afterwards, but because I'm too lazy, I didn't do it, and now we're here, and now I'll be explaining you how I did it exactly. And if you want me to really dive into it into detail and explaining to you with like every step, you can let me know in the comment. But for now, I'm gonna be explaining right here, basically without writing any code, but basically showing you how I implement it. Let's straight jump into the code and into this folder structure here. So what I did is essentially I implemented route groups. This is how it is called in Next.js 13. It is a Next.js 13 feature where you can basically group your segments of the routes into the groups. Basically, yeah, put them in the groups. And what it essentially enables you is to create for each of the route segment the layout. And for example, login, we have a different layout and different logic where we handle authentication logic. And in the private routes, by the way, login routes or login route group, you can find here like login page, recover page, sign up page, and so on. And in the private route group, you can find all the private pages or protected pages, which only authenticated user can access. So this is the basic setup, and you can also go to the Next.js documentation and read more about route groups and what's the advantage of them are. So let's straight jump to the root level layout here, where we basically, that's not auth. Let's rename this to root level layout. And we define a query server side, and basically passing this query client, from React Query into the query client provider, which also comes from React Query, which makes this query client accessible throughout the hierarchy, your component hierarchy. And then we are wrapping all of these components here into a GraphQL client provider, which is interesting here. We can look at it. Here we define a GraphQL client, which comes from GraphQL request, which is a GraphQL client that communicates with the server and actually is used inside of our query hooks. If you haven't seen the tutorial with the code generation tool and setting up all the types and query hooks and mutation hooks, you can check it out. It's that's, I think, part 11, and exactly we are defining a context provider. This context is defined here as well. Creating context, that's basically a GraphQL client, can be null or a GraphQL client, and here we are creating our custom hook that can be used, and we are basically wrapping it up around use context, passing GraphQL context here to get the client. And if our next public API base URL is not set up, it will throw an error because we need to set up this in our environment variable in the .env local. It's a good practice to know, or basically to your like, so that you won't make mistake or won't overlook and oversee your environment variables. Otherwise, it's in the end hard to debug and hard to find out, okay, why is that working and blah blah blah. It's a good way for ensuring that the client is set or the context is set. What we are doing then is we are having this use effect that on mount sets the client, and if the token exists from the off store, which is a Zustand store, and Zustand, as I also explained in the last tutorial, it basically synchronizes with your local storage, and it also can be used as state. It's a state mainly. It's a state management tool or library that syncs with the local storage. So it's very cool stuff. And from here we are getting the token. I can also go quickly inside of use auth store, and you can see we defined also in the last tutorial all of this, and I explained it fairly well how you should set it up and how it works. What I think added is what you didn't see was partialize, and with this function you can decide which of your states you want to store in the local storage. And for now I decided deliberately for token and user. So this is how it works. Token, you're getting the token on the on mount. This provider, GraphQL client provider, checks if the token exists. If it exists, it sets the header, authorization header, so we can make requests as an authorized user. And if the token doesn't exist, then it doesn't set any header, and we only can use the client for our login or sign up page for sign up request, right? And this is what it essentially does. If we go then one step further and go into, for example, login group, route group, you can, if we go to layout, what I essentially did here is checking if on mount, again checking if token exists. If it doesn't exist, the page, the user will be directed to the slash to the home page. That means it's authenticated. And by the way, I added this timer here so that we have a consistent time, or so that the user doesn't see like very quickly like loading, or basically loading, and it gives you a nice experience if you have a 1 minute time frame basically for waiting. It's nice. It's for a better user experience basically. And in here we are checking if token exists again, or if loading, and if this is true or this is true, then we are basically rendering the loading component. And here we need to, in next story, I think I will replace this with the spinner, or with the Facebook logo. I think Facebook has also, see, like this screen. Have you seen this one? I think I will implement the same screen here, and this I will implement basically instead of the loading here. And I'm going to be demonstrating. Don't worry. Let's dive into code for now, or I can also explain it while I'm demonstrate it while I'm explaining as well. So this in this group, in this root group, in the layout, as I explained, it does all the stuff. That means if I reload now, you see like it's 1 minute, it's waiting 1 minute, and then it shows you the screen, and not like if I would take out this timer, you would see like for like maybe 100 milliseconds you will see loading, and then immediately the login page, which is not a nice experience for the user. Exactly. So it exactly checks for the token, blah blah blah. You have seen this, right? And if token does not exist and the loading is not is false, then it renders the children, and the children, of course, are the page here, right? This page here, I need to quickly adjust the imports. Adjusted all the imports. This error comes from because I changed the TypeScript paths here. Exactly, I defined more paths here. That's why it complained. Exactly, if login, everything is false here, blah blah blah, returns children, which will be the slash page, which will be here. No, it would be the, sorry, it would be the slash login page. And slash login page, of course, this hook is not needed anymore. You can ignore this, and that's the page that we're seeing right now here. Let me now log in and demonstrate how it works. Login, boom. As you can see, you saw the loading, and then you see we are on the slash page, right? Slash, so the home page, which is this one here, this one. And by the way, route group, this is not counting as a path, right? As a segment name in a path, because it only tells Next.js that those in the group are only basically route groups, and not they don't have this slash segment, not slash segment, but the path name, basically private. It only tells Next.js that those are like grouped. So don't confuse it with, for example, login here, and then you have inside of this page, and you access this page with slash login because of the folder name is login. It's not working the same way here, because those are only the groups. So you saw, like, I logged in right now with my credentials, and if we go to the on login form submit, you can see we called the mutation, we called our login mutation, we checked if token exists, we set the token if it exists, and we also set the client header. That's important, because I will tell you why it's important. And we push the user to the home page, right? And here we are also having trouble with the imports. Let me quickly adjust it, and then add all unambiguous imports. Should work fine. And as I said, then we are pushing the user to the home page, and the home page is basically here, right? This inside of the private route group. And if we go to layout, because first layout is going to be rendered, and in here interesting stuff are happening. So let me break this down to you. What we are essentially doing is, first of all, we are checking if user query data, so the fetched user query data is not existing, or the loading state is basically in the process, or loading is in the process. Let me remove this character here. Or if the user does not exist, and the user is basically the Zustand user, so the state user, right? If this does not exist, and if the loading, let me see what that is. Exactly, if the loading also does not exist, and this loading is basically, actually we can name this as it is an initial loading, right? Because if we navigate through the through this group here, to the private group, I think it won't do any loadings exactly. The loading is only happening when we basically programmatically, or I think when we go to the slash. No, even then it's not happening. No, exactly. So yeah, whatever. Exactly, so we are checking all of these conditions. If one of these are true, we are, again, we need to implement the spinner here, not the spinner, but Facebook logo, yeah, loading page or something, whatever. And inside of here, boom, boom, we having navigation bar, which is this one here, and it contains only one button. I haven't designed anything. I just put a logout button to demonstrate the authentication system. And if one of those are like all of them are false, then we are logging out the not logging out, but rendering the children, which is the slash page and navigation bar, and it could be also the settings, right? Because this layout will always be rendered or executed whenever one of these pages are want to be accessed. So exactly. So let me break down what is happening here. Exactly. So we have use user query hook, which queries the user, and it is only enabled, this enabled property, if this is true, the use query will be executed, or the user query will be executed, and we are fetching the user. If this is false, nothing is happening. So what I'm saying is here, if the token exists, so if the type of token is string, then we should fetch for the user, because then we are ensuring that we have a token in the local storage, because this token comes from the Zustand, from the auth store, and we want to fetch the user because the client has also the authorization header, right? That's also important. So this user effect, what it does is, this I will be explaining shortly. Let me first explain this two user effects. This one only is executed on mount, which checks for token existence. If it doesn't exist, then it pushes to the login page. And again, that's the timeout thing with the timer, 1 minute thing. So we wait for 1 minute before showing the UI. That's I explained already what the on the login page. It's the same thing here. This use effect is checking if the user query is not null. Okay, if it's not null, then it sets the user. So from this user query data, we are getting user, and this we are setting then to the Zustand user, so to the state. And this also, the Zustand user also sets the user into local storage. That's what you need to know as well. Yeah, I know it's a lot, but I will be pushing this code to GitHub. I already pushed it, and it's private right now. And if you want to, if you want me to share the code with you, just comment your user GitHub name, and I'm gonna invite you as a read-only user, and you can read my code and work with it, basically. Exactly. So this is what is happening here, and that's why we are checking if the user exists here. This user is from auth store. I'm getting it from auth store. Exactly. So this is what is happening here, and if I go here and reload, for example, again loading, blah blah blah. If I try to, for example, go now to dashboard, it works as well because I'm authenticated. If I want to go to login, not capitalized, not uppercase, but lowercase, and if I hit now enter, it says boom boom, doesn't work, because as you can see, based on the logs here, it tries to access login route group layout, which is this one, login route group layout, this one, right? It checked if token existed, of course doesn't exist, that means no, sorry, if exactly checked if it exists, of course it exists because we are authenticated, and it pushed the user back to the home page. This is what happened. So if I do again, login, boom, doesn't work, right? It push it back to the dashboard page. And if I log out now, and let's see how the log out functionality is done here. If I go to navigation bar, I wrote a logout function inside of the auth store, which is written in Zustand, with Zustand, sorry. And this logout, what it essentially does is it sets the token and the user to null, right? And this basically, whenever we set the token or user, it actually retriggers every component where we use token or user, but that doesn't really matter, because what we are doing is also here, if you see on click, we are exactly setting the token and the user to null, and we also navigating the user to the login page, right? And exactly, then it's like the same game. If you go to the layout, to the route group layout login, you can see again it checks for token existence. It of course doesn't exist if we set the token to null here. Of course it doesn't exist. That means this won't be executed. We won't be directed to the slash page, and the game starts basically all over again. And if I can demonstrate you, if we log out, boom, you can see we'll be directed to login page, and it works. And if I try to go now to slash page, boom, doesn't work. And why it doesn't work, we can again discuss and go into the private page. So we try to access this page right now, but before this page or component, layout component will be executed. And what we essentially check here is if token exists, and if it doesn't exist, we are pushing the user to slash login page. And this is how it basically works. And I hope you understood. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And yeah, I can answer it for you. And again, if you want to see the code, just write your username in the comment section, your GitHub username. I'm gonna invite you, and you can basically access the code free. Thank you for watching, and I hope it was clear and you understood every part of the application and the step. And I will be implementing this app furthermore with the new features and with new stuff. And stay tuned. Bye bye.